Have you ever wondered why you are alive right now? Not in a philosophical sense, but in a literal physical way. Why your body exists, why your consciousness emerged from this small planet orbiting an ordinary star. The answer is invisible. It surrounds you constantly. It has protected every human who ever lived, every animal that ever breathed, every plant that ever grew toward the sun. Close your eyes for a moment. Breathe slowly. Right now, as you listen to these words, you're floating inside a protective bubble. This bubble is made of something you cannot see or touch. It has no walls, it has no edges you could find on a map. Yet it is as real as the ground beneath your feet. More real, perhaps, because without it that ground would be barren, lifeless, silent. This is the story of Earth's magnetic field, the invisible shield that stands between you and cosmic destruction. Before we begin this journey together, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the Relaxing Science channel. This helps us continue creating content that brings calm and wonder into your life. Please give this video a like and share in the comments where you are listening from and what time it is there. Your presence matters to this community. Now let us begin. Imagine standing at the edge of the ocean at sunset. The sky burns with orange and gold. The water stretches endlessly toward the horizon. You feel small, connected, part of something vast. This feeling you have right now is what we are exploring together. That sense of being held, of being protected by forces larger than ourselves. But unlike the ocean, which you can see and touch, Earth's magnetic field operates in silence, in darkness, in the realm of the invisible. Scientists call it the magnetosphere, but that word is cold. It lacks poetry. The magnetosphere is, in truth, a river of invisible force. Imagine a river made of pure energy, flowing around your planet like water around a stone in a stream. This river does not flow with water. It flows with magnetism, with invisible lines of force that bend and curve through space itself. Where does this river come from? Deep beneath your feet, deeper than mountains, deeper than oceans. At the center of Earth lies the core, and this core is not solid rock. It is a sphere of iron and nickel so hot that it burns. The outer core is liquid, molten, churning, rotating, moving. And here is where the miracle begins. This liquid iron moves. It swirls. It convects. As it moves, it creates electrical currents. These currents are generated by the rotation of the planet itself. The Earth spins, and the liquid iron spins with it. And when electrical current moves through space, it creates magnetism, a magnetic field. This is not mystical, this is physics. But physics, when you truly understand it, is indistinguishable from magic. This magnetic field extends outward, outward from the core, outward through the rocky mantle, outward through the crust where you walk, outward into the atmosphere, outward into space, and it forms a bubble, a protective sphere that surrounds the entire planet. You are inside this bubble right now. You have always been inside this bubble. Every moment of your existence, you have been cradled by magnetism. Why does this matter? Why should you care about invisible forces? Because the sun is trying to kill you, not intentionally. The sun does not possess intention, but the sun is a furnace of nuclear fusion. Every second, it converts millions of tons of hydrogen into helium. This process releases energy so enormous that it fills the entire solar system with radiation, dangerous radiation, cosmic rays, solar winds, particles moving at nearly the speed of light. Without Earth's magnetic field, these particles would reach your skin. They would penetrate your cells. They would damage your DNA. They would strip away the atmosphere itself. The entire envelope of air that allows you to breathe would be torn away into space. The surface of Earth would become a barren, lifeless desert, like Mars, like Venus, like the Moon. But Earth is different. Earth has this shield, this invisible river of magnetism that flows around the planet. When the solar wind approaches Earth, it encounters this magnetic field. The two forces meet like two rivers merging. The magnetic field deflects the solar wind. It bends it. It channels it around the planet. Most of the dangerous radiation never reaches the surface. It is turned away, sent careening off into space. This has been happening for billions of years. Since life first emerged in Earth's oceans, This shield has been protecting it. When the first single-celled organisms began to photosynthesize, the magnetosphere was there. When fish crawled onto land, the magnetosphere was there. When dinosaurs walked beneath towering ferns, the magnetosphere was there. When humans first looked up at the stars and wondered, the magnetosphere was there. The ancient peoples did not understand the science. They could not measure magnetic fields or calculate the energy of solar winds, but they felt something. They sensed this invisible protection, and they called it divine. The Egyptians saw it as the breath of Ra, the sun god. The Hindus perceived it as the cosmic force that holds all things together. The Chinese called it Qi. The Greeks named it ether. Different cultures, different languages, but the same intuition, the same recognition that something invisible holds us, protects us, sustains us. They were right. The only difference is that now we can measure it. We can understand it. We can trace it back to the spinning iron at the planet's core. We can watch it interact with the solar wind through satellites and instruments. We can map its strength and its variations. But the feeling remains the same. The awe remains. The gratitude remains. You exist because of this shield. Every breath you take is made possible by magnetism. Every thought you think happens inside a protected bubble. Every moment of consciousness you experience is shielded from cosmic destruction by forces operating in the invisible realm. Let this sink in as you breathe, slowly, gently. You are not alone in the universe. You are held, protected, cradled by the planet itself. And this is only the beginning of our exploration together. As we discovered in our first journey, an invisible shield surrounds you right now. This magnetic bubble has protected every breath you have ever taken. But how did ancient peoples know this was sacred? How did they sense what science would only prove thousands of years later? The answer lies in observation. Long before instruments existed, civilizations across the world developed profound reverence for Earth's protective force. The Egyptians called it divine. The Chinese mapped it. Indigenous peoples navigated by it. They did not have equations or laboratory data, yet they recognized something fundamental, that life itself depends on an unseen guardian. What fascinates modern science is that these ancient intuitions were not mere superstition. They were accurate perceptions of reality, expressed through the language available to them. When a Sumerian priest spoke of celestial protection, they were describing the magnetosphere. When Chinese scholars observed the lodestone's alignment with invisible forces, they were witnessing the planet's magnetic field at work. Their wisdom was simply waiting for scientific translation. Consider this. Humans have always been drawn to the concept of protection. Every culture created myths about divine shields, invisible walls, celestial guardians. Were these stories merely imagination? Or were they humanity's collective memory of something real that our ancestors could feel but not explain? Modern physics now reveals the profound truth beneath these ancient narratives. The magnetic field is not metaphorical protection, it is literal survival. Every cell in your body exists because of this shield. Every thought you have occurs within a mind protected by magnetism. The ancients sensed this connection intuitively. They built temples aligned with magnetic north. They created rituals honoring the invisible forces that sustained them. Now science provides the evidence. The magnetosphere deflects solar wind particles that would otherwise strip away our atmosphere. Without this shield, Earth would resemble Mars. Our planet would be barren, lifeless, exposed to cosmic radiation. The atmosphere would evaporate into space. Oceans would vanish. The very conditions necessary for consciousness to emerge would cease to exist. This is not speculation. This is measured, tested, documented reality. Satellites have recorded the magnetosphere's structure. Scientists have mapped the solar wind's interaction with our protective field. We have photographed the aurora borealis, which is visible proof of magnetism in action. The green and violet lights dancing in polar skies are not merely beautiful. They are evidence of your planet's shield protecting you from invisible assault. The ancients saw auroras and called them divine messages. They were not wrong. They were witnessing the universe's attempt to harm them being actively prevented by Earth's magnetic field. The lights were literal proof of protection, rendered visible through physics. What the ancient observers understood through intuition and careful watching was that Earth itself is alive with protective force. They recognized patterns. They noticed that certain stones pointed the same direction. They observed that birds navigated using invisible pathways. They sensed that the world possessed intelligence, purpose, and care. Modern civilization dismissed these observations as primitive superstition. We created separation between science and spirituality, between the measurable and the meaningful. Yet, as our instruments have grown more sophisticated, we have discovered something humbling. The ancient peoples were describing the same reality we measure today. They simply used different language. The magnetic field is generated by movement. Liquid iron in Earth's core churns and flows, creating electrical currents. These currents generate magnetism. It is not static. It is dynamic, alive, constantly shifting and adapting. The field strengthens and weakens. It has reversed polarity multiple times throughout Earth's history. It is not a fixed shield, but a living, breathing phenomenon. When ancient astronomers spoke of the world's soul, they were describing this dynamic energy. When they said the Earth breathes, they were correct. The magnetic field pulses with the planet's internal motion. It is not separate from life. It is part of the same living system that produces weather, ocean currents, and the conditions for consciousness. Here is what makes this truly profound. You are not merely protected by this field. You are embedded within it. Every atom in your body contains electrons and protons that respond to magnetic force. Your nervous system operates through electrical impulses that interact with magnetism. Your very consciousness may depend on subtle electromagnetic interactions occurring within your brain. The ancients knew this without knowing how they knew it. They felt connected to something larger. They experienced the Earth as sacred because, at a fundamental level, they were sensing the electromagnetic reality of their existence. They were not worshipping an abstract god. They were acknowledging the actual physical forces that sustained them. Science has now given us the privilege of understanding what they could only feel. We can measure the magnetosphere's strength. We can track how solar storms compress it. We can observe the precise moment when solar wind particles are deflected away from Earth, prevented from reaching your skin, your lungs, your eyes. This knowledge should inspire awe, not religious awe, though that is understandable, but scientific awe. The recognition that you are protected by forces so vast, so powerful, so precisely balanced, that your existence is genuinely miraculous. Not miraculous in a supernatural sense, but in the sense that the probability of all these conditions aligning perfectly for your consciousness to emerge is staggeringly small. The ancient observers were right. Earth is sacred. Not because of divine intervention, but because of the extraordinary physics that sustains it. The magnetic shield is real, the protection is constant, and you are held within it, right now, as you listen to these words. As we move forward in our exploration, remember this connection between ancient wisdom and modern science. The bridge between them is not separation, but continuity. The same forces that inspired temples and rituals continue to protect you today. The same invisible shield that ancient peoples sensed with intuition now appears on our instruments as measurable, quantifiable reality. You are safe. You have always been safe. And now you know why. Now that we understand how ancient wisdom recognized this invisible protection, let's journey deeper into the source itself. Beneath your feet, far below the soil and stone, lies something extraordinary, a realm of liquid fire where the impossible becomes real. Imagine descending through layers of earth. The ground gives way to rock, then to something hotter. Deeper still, the pressure intensifies. The temperature rises beyond what human bodies could ever survive. At last, you reach the core, a place where iron exists in a state few people ever contemplate. This iron is not solid. It is molten, flowing like a river of metal. Thousands of kilometers beneath the surface, liquid iron moves in currents and eddies, driven by heat from deep within the planet. This is not random motion. This is a dance governed by physics, by temperature gradients, by the very forces that keep our world alive. The liquid iron core is the heart of Earth's magnetism. But how does metal, no matter how hot or how deep, create an invisible shield that extends thousands of kilometers into space? The answer lies in a principle as elegant as it is fundamental. Moving electricity generates magnetism. When iron moves, it carries electrons with it. Electrons are charged particles. Charged particles in motion create magnetic fields. This is not magic. This is electromagnetic induction, one of nature's most beautiful laws, discovered centuries ago, yet still governing the invisible world around you right now. The core's convection is relentless. Hot iron rises from the deepest regions. As it rises, it cools slightly. Cooler, denser iron sinks back down. This cycle repeats endlessly, a rhythm that has persisted for billions of years. With each movement, electrons flow. With each flow of electrons, the magnetic field strengthens. But there is more complexity here. The Earth itself rotates. This rotation influences the movement of the liquid iron. The Coriolis effect, the same force that shapes hurricanes and ocean currents, also shapes the convection patterns in the core. The result is a magnetic field that is not uniform, not perfectly symmetrical, but rather dynamic and ever-shifting. Scientists call this process the geodynamo. It is a self-sustaining system. The magnetic field generated by moving iron helps organize that moving iron, which in turn generates more magnetic field. A feedback loop that has maintained Earth's protection for over 4 billion years. Consider the precision required for this to work. The core must be hot enough to remain liquid, yet not so hot that it loses its electromagnetic properties. The rotation of the planet must be stable. The composition of the core must contain enough iron and nickel to generate sufficient electrical conductivity. Change any of these variables significantly, and the shield weakens. Change them too much, and it collapses. Yet here we are. Life thrives. Consciousness emerges. Civilizations rise. All because billions of years ago, Earth formed with precisely the right conditions to maintain this invisible protection. The magnetic field generated in the core extends far beyond the planet's surface. It expands outward, creating the magnetosphere, a vast bubble of magnetic influence that surrounds Earth. This field is strongest near the poles, where it is most concentrated. At the equator, it is weaker but still present, still protective. This is where the ancient people's intuition becomes even more remarkable. They could not see the magnetic field. They could not measure it with instruments. Yet many cultures oriented their sacred spaces, their temples, their homes along magnetic lines. They built in harmony with something they sensed, but could not name. Modern science now knows they were aligning themselves with the very force that keeps them alive. The liquid iron core is not alone in generating this protection. The outer core, slightly cooler than the inner core, also plays a role. The boundary between them creates additional electromagnetic effects. Even the mantle above the core, while solid, contributes to the overall system through its thermal properties and composition. Think of it as a vast machine, one that operates in silence and darkness. No human has ever seen the liquid iron core. No one ever will, at least not directly. The pressure and temperature are too extreme. Yet we know it is there. We measure its effects. We understand its principles. And we live because of it. The energy that drives this system comes from two sources. First, there is the heat left over from Earth's formation, still radiating outward after billions of years. Second, there is the heat generated by radioactive decay deep within the planet. Elements like uranium and thorium, buried in the core, slowly decay, releasing energy. This energy sustains the convection that sustains the magnetic field. Every moment, every second, this process continues. The liquid iron moves, the electrons flow, the magnetic field persists, and you, reading these words, are protected by a force generated in a realm you will never visit, by a process that began before your species existed, by a system so fundamental that without it, you would not be here. The ancients sensed divinity in this protection. They were not wrong. They simply lacked the vocabulary to describe it in scientific terms. But the reality they intuited, that something invisible and eternal shields all life, that reality is confirmed by every measurement, every equation, every observation modern science has made. Soon we will explore what happens when this shield faces its greatest challenge. But first, let this thought settle within you. Beneath your feet in the deepest darkness, liquid iron dances an endless dance. And because it does, you breathe, you think, you exist. Now that you understand how Earth's iron heart generates this invisible shield, we must explore what it actually protects us from. The threat is constant. It arrives every single moment, traveling across the vast emptiness of space at incredible speeds. The sun does not simply give us light and warmth. It is also a relentless source of invisible danger. Every second, our star releases streams of charged particles called solar wind. These particles flow outward in all directions, carrying energy that would strip away any unprotected atmosphere. They move at speeds reaching millions of miles per hour, a river of radiation flowing invisibly through the cosmos. Imagine standing on a world without protection. The solar wind would not feel like wind at all. It would be a constant bombardment of energy that would damage living cells at the molecular level. DNA would unravel. Proteins would break apart. Life as we know it could not exist. This is not speculation. This is what happens on planets without magnetic fields. We see it today on Mars, a world that lost its protective field billions of years ago. Mars once had a magnetosphere like Earth's. Its iron core cooled. The geodynamo stopped. The shield vanished. Now solar wind strips away the Martian atmosphere, molecule by molecule. What remains is a thin, cold desert where liquid water cannot flow and life cannot flourish. Mars shows us the cost of losing protection, but Earth's threat extends beyond the solar wind. Deeper in space, beyond the reach of our sun, cosmic rays travel toward us. These are particles born in the death of distant stars, accelerated to nearly the speed of light by explosions that occurred millions of years ago. They rain down upon our planet constantly, billions of them passing through your body every single day. You do not feel them because they are so small and move so fast. Yet these cosmic rays are dangerous. When they strike Earth's upper atmosphere, they create secondary particles that can damage living tissue. Without the magnetosphere, cosmic ray exposure at ground level would increase dramatically. Organisms would experience more mutations, cancer rates would rise, evolution would accelerate in unpredictable directions. Life would become fragile and uncertain. The magnetosphere intercepts these threats before they reach us. It does this through an elegant mechanism that has protected Earth for over 4 billion years. The magnetic field acts like an invisible net, deflecting charged particles away from our planet. Some particles are caught in the field's grip, trapped in regions called radiation belts. Others are redirected toward the poles, where they interact with the upper atmosphere in a dance of light. We call the aurora borealis and australis. The aurora is not merely beautiful, it is visible proof of the magnetosphere at work. When solar particles collide with atmospheric gases near the poles, they release energy as light. The green and purple curtains dancing across Arctic and Antarctic skies are actually your planet's shield responding to solar attacks. Ancients witnessed these lights and sensed something sacred occurring. They were correct. Something sacred is indeed happening. The very continuation of life depends on this invisible ballet between solar radiation and magnetic protection. The structure of this protection is intricate. The magnetosphere is not a simple bubble. It has layers, boundaries, and regions of varying strength. Close to Earth, the field is strong and tightly organized. As you move outward into space, the field weakens gradually, spreading and stretching. On the side facing the sun, the magnetosphere is compressed by solar wind pressure, creating a sharp boundary called the magnetopause. On the night side of Earth, the field stretches far into space, creating a long tail that extends for hundreds of thousands of miles. Within this vast structure, different regions serve different protective functions. The inner radiation belts trap high-energy particles close to Earth. The outer radiation belts catch particles with lower energy. Between them, a relatively calm region called the plasmasphere holds cooler particles in gentle orbits. Each zone plays a role in the overall defense system. This protection is not absolute. During extreme solar events called coronal mass ejections, the sun releases billions of tons of plasma and magnetic field toward Earth. These events can temporarily overwhelm the magnetosphere, pushing it inward and allowing enhanced particle flow to reach the upper atmosphere. Yet even during these extreme events, the magnetosphere holds. It bends and flexes, but does not break. The shield absorbs the blow, and life below remains safe. Consider what this means for you right now in this moment. You are surrounded by protection so complete that you never think about it. Deadly radiation streams past you constantly, but the magnetosphere intercepts it. You are cushioned by an invisible force generated by iron flowing in the darkness below your feet. This protection is as real as the ground beneath you, yet utterly invisible. The sun's assault is relentless and ancient. For billions of years, this radiation has poured toward Earth. For billions of years, the magnetosphere has held firm. Life emerged in the oceans, protected by this shield. Life crawled onto land, still protected. Consciousness arose, still protected. Civilizations built monuments and wondered about the cosmos, all within this invisible sanctuary. Now you know what lies beyond the shield. You understand the danger that your magnetic protection prevents. This knowledge should bring you peace, not fear. The danger is real, but so is the protection. You float in safety, held by forces older than human memory, older than mountains, older than the oceans themselves. Let this understanding settle into your awareness. The threat exists, but you are protected. Every breath you take happens within a shield. Every thought that forms in your mind occurs in a brain protected from cosmic radiation. You are safe. This safety is not luck or accident. It is the result of precise planetary conditions that have persisted for billions of years. A continuation of the geo-dynamo we explored together before. Imagine standing at the edge of space, looking down at Earth. What you see is not just a planet, but a living fortress wrapped in invisible geometry. This fortress has a name, the magnetosphere, and it is far more complex, far more beautiful than a simple shield. The magnetosphere is not a thin barrier. It is a vast, layered structure that extends thousands of kilometers into space, creating multiple zones of protection. Think of it as a series of concentric bubbles, each one serving a specific purpose in the grand architecture of planetary defense. The outermost boundary, called the magnetopause, marks where Earth's magnetic field meets the solar wind. This is not a fixed line. It is a dynamic frontier, constantly shifting and breathing as the sun's energy fluctuates. When solar storms arrive, this boundary compresses. During calm periods, it expands. The magnetopause is where the battle between planetary magnetism and stellar wind is most intense, yet it happens in perfect silence, invisible to human eyes. Inside the magnetopause lies a region called the magnetosheath. This is a transitional zone where solar wind particles begin to feel Earth's magnetic influence. They slow down, they curve, they start to surrender to the planet's invisible pull. The magnetosheath is like a cosmic buffer, a place where hostile particles lose momentum before encountering the inner defenses. Deeper still, we find the radiation belts, which we touched upon before, but now we understand them differently. These belts are not random accumulations of particles. They are organized structures, held in place by precise mathematical relationships. The inner belt sits roughly 2,000 kilometers above Earth's surface. The outer belt extends much farther, sometimes reaching nearly 60,000 kilometers into space. Within these belts, particles spiral along magnetic field lines in a graceful, helical dance. They move in three ways simultaneously. They spiral around the field lines, they bounce between the poles, and they drift slowly around the planet. This triple motion creates a stable, predictable system. Particles remain trapped, unable to descend toward the atmosphere and cause harm. Yet the magnetosphere is not perfect. It has weak points. The poles are where magnetic field lines converge, where they plunge into the planet's interior. Here, the field lines open like flower petals, creating a pathway for particles to enter the upper atmosphere. This is not a flaw. It is a design feature. The magnetosphere funnels particles toward the poles intentionally, where they interact with oxygen and nitrogen atoms at high altitudes. This interaction creates light. This is the aurora. What we see as shimmering curtains of green and red across polar skies is actually the magnetosphere at work, channeling solar particles into a region where they can be safely neutralized through luminous collision. The aurora is not just beautiful, it is evidence of protection in action. The structure of the magnetosphere is maintained by magnetic field lines that emerge from the South Pole and curve around Earth, re-entering at the North Pole. These lines are not physical objects. They are pathways of force, invisible threads that guide charged particles. They extend far into space, creating a teardrop-shaped bubble with a long tail pointing away from the sun. This tail, called the magnetotail, stretches for millions of kilometers, sometimes extending beyond the moon's orbit. The magnetosphere is also layered vertically. Near Earth's surface lies the ionosphere, a region where the atmosphere becomes electrically charged due to solar radiation. Above that sits the plasmasphere, a region filled with low-energy plasma held in place by Earth's magnetic field. Each layer has a distinct temperature, density, and composition. Each serves a purpose in the overall system of protection. What makes this structure stable is something called magnetic reconnection. This is a process where magnetic field lines can break and rejoin, releasing energy in controlled bursts. When solar wind pressure builds up, magnetic reconnection allows the system to release tension gradually, preventing catastrophic collapse. It is a self-regulating mechanism, a form of planetary breathing that keeps the magnetosphere in balance. The boundaries between these regions are not sharp lines. They are transition zones where one state of matter gradually becomes another. Plasma becomes increasingly ionized as you move outward. Temperature and density shift smoothly. This gradual transition is what allows the magnetosphere to function without violent disruptions. Consider what this means for you right now. You are sitting within this structure. Above your head, invisible magnetic fields extend upward through the atmosphere, through the ionosphere, through the plasmasphere, and far into space. These fields are alive with motion. Particles are dancing. Energy is flowing. Stellar radiation is being deflected. And you feel none of it. This is the gift of planetary magnetism. It operates in silence. It requires no conscious effort. It simply exists, generated by the slow churning of molten iron deep beneath your feet, maintained by the rotation of your world, and sustained by forces set in motion billions of years ago. Ancient peoples could not see this structure, yet they sensed it. They felt protected. They built temples aligned with magnetic north. They understood, in ways that science is only now confirming, that Earth itself was alive with protective power. Now, as we move forward in our exploration, we will see how this magnificent architecture came to be and how it continues to evolve. The magnetosphere is not static. It changes. It responds. It adapts. And in understanding its structure, we begin to understand our place within a living system of cosmic protection. Imagine standing at the edge of space, watching invisible dancers move in perfect rhythm. These are not beings of flesh or light as we know it. They are charged particles, born in the heart of the sun, traveling at speeds that would cross our entire planet in mere seconds. Every single moment, billions of these particles stream toward Earth. They carry energy so intense that if they touched your skin directly, they would damage the very cells that allow you to think, to feel, to exist. Yet you remain safe, untouched, protected by something you cannot see, cannot hold, cannot measure with your hands. This is the dance of particles, and it is happening right now above your head. The solar wind, as we learned before, carries these charged particles outward from the sun in a constant stream. But the moment these particles approach Earth's magnetosphere, something extraordinary occurs. The magnetic field lines do not simply block them like a wall. Instead, they guide them. They curve them. They choreograph their movement with mathematical precision. Think of it this way. Imagine a river flowing toward a stone. The water does not crash into the stone and stop. Instead, it flows around it, creating patterns of current and eddy. The particles behave similarly, but with far greater complexity. The magnetic field lines act as invisible channels, directing the charged particles along specific paths. When a particle encounters the magnetopause, the outer boundary of our magnetic shield, something remarkable happens. The particle feels the invisible force. It begins to curve. Its trajectory bends. Some particles are deflected entirely, sent back into space as though they were never here. Others penetrate deeper, following the field lines as they spiral and twist. This spiraling motion is crucial. As particles move along magnetic field lines, they rotate around them like electrons orbiting an atom. This rotation, this dance causes them to slow down. Energy is transferred. The particles lose momentum. They become trapped, caught in a gentle but absolute grip. The radiation belts, those layered regions we mentioned before, are where this trapping becomes most intense. Particles circle endlessly, held by the magnetic field in stable orbits. Some remain for days, others for months or even years. They are not destroyed, they are simply contained, held in check, prevented from reaching the surface where you live. But here is where the story becomes even more beautiful. Not all particles are trapped forever. Some particles, through subtle interactions with the magnetic field, gradually lose energy. They spiral downward. They follow the field lines as they converge toward the poles, the northern and southern regions of Earth, where the magnetic field lines naturally funnel inward. As these particles descend, they enter the upper atmosphere. They collide with oxygen and nitrogen molecules, the very gases that allow you to breathe. When a charged particle strikes an atmospheric molecule, energy is released, light is created, visible light, photons that travel to your eyes. This is not a small or subtle process. Millions upon millions of particles enter the atmosphere every second. Each collision releases energy. Each release of energy creates light. The result is a phenomenon so magnificent, so ethereal, that ancient civilizations believed it was divine. The aurora, the northern lights, the southern lights. These are not myths, they are not metaphors. They are the visible proof of your protection. They are the magnetic shield made visible to human eyes. When you see the aurora dancing across the night sky in shades of green and red and purple, you are witnessing particles from the sun colliding with molecules in your atmosphere. You are watching the dance of particles in real time. You are seeing protection manifest as beauty. The colors themselves tell a story. Green auroras, the most common, result from oxygen atoms struck by particles at altitudes around 100 kilometers. Red auroras, rarer and more ethereal, come from oxygen at higher altitudes. Purple and blue hues emerge from nitrogen interactions. Each color is a signature. Each hue is a message written in light. The intensity of auroras varies with the solar cycle. When the sun releases massive bursts of energy, called coronal mass ejections, more particles reach Earth. The dance becomes more vigorous. The auroras become more intense, more widespread, more visible even in regions far from the poles. Yet even during these intense events, the magnetosphere adapts. The magnetic field strengthens its grip. The deflection becomes more pronounced. Particles that might have penetrated deeper are instead redirected. The shield holds. The protection remains absolute. This is not accidental. This is not luck. This is the result of billions of years of planetary evolution. The iron core continues to spin. The convection continues to flow. The electromagnetic induction continues to generate the field. Every moment, every second, the protection is renewed. And you float within this protection unaware. You walk beneath auroras you may never see. You live within a magnetic embrace so complete that it is invisible to your senses. Yet it is more real than the ground beneath your feet. The particles continue their dance. The field lines continue their guidance. The protection continues its work. And life, in all its complexity and consciousness, continues because of this invisible choreography. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the particles spiraling around you. Imagine the field lines flowing from pole to pole. Imagine the light being created high above in the thin atmosphere. You are safe. You have always been safe. Protected by forces so ancient and so powerful that they predate human consciousness itself. When you stand beneath the northern lights, you are witnessing something far deeper than beauty. You are watching your own protection become visible. The aurora is not merely a spectacle of colored light dancing across the polar sky. It is a message written in photons, a direct conversation between the sun and Earth, translated into something your eyes can finally comprehend. For most of your life, the magnetic shield works in silence. It operates invisibly, deflecting billions of charged particles every single second. But at the poles, something extraordinary happens. The magnetic field lines converge like threads being pulled toward a point. They funnel the solar wind's energy downward, compressing it, focusing it, intensifying it. And when those high-energy particles collide with oxygen and nitrogen molecules in the upper atmosphere, They release their energy as light: green, red, purple, blue. These colors are not random. Each one tells a specific story about which atom was struck and at what height. The green light, the most common aurora color, comes from oxygen atoms at altitudes between 100 and 300 kilometers above the ground. This is the signature of protection in action. When you see that gentle, dancing green glow, you are seeing oxygen atoms absorbing solar particles and releasing their energy as visible light. You are watching your atmosphere defend itself. But here is what makes the aurora truly profound. It only appears at the poles, because that is where Earth's magnetic field lines converge most intensely. Imagine the entire planet surrounded by invisible threads of magnetism, all flowing from south to north. At the poles, these threads bunch together, creating a funnel. The solar wind particles, spiraling along these magnetic highways, have no choice but to follow them downward. They descend into the upper atmosphere, collide with molecules, and transform their destructive energy into light. This is why ancient peoples revered the auroras as divine. They were witnessing something real and profound, even if they could not explain it scientifically. They understood that this light represented protection, that it was a shield made visible. The Inuit peoples called it the spirits dancing. The Norse saw it as the armor of the gods. In a way, they were correct. The aurora is the armor of your world, made momentarily visible. The beauty of the aurora serves a deeper purpose than aesthetics. It represents the constant, tireless work of Earth's magnetosphere. Every aurora is proof that the shield is functioning. Every colored ribbon of light is evidence that solar radiation is being intercepted, redirected, and neutralized. Without this process, that radiation would reach the upper atmosphere unimpeded, stripping away molecules, damaging DNA, making complex life impossible. Consider what happens during a solar storm. When the sun releases a coronal mass ejection, billions of tons of plasma hurl toward Earth at millions of kilometers per hour. The magnetosphere responds by intensifying. The magnetic field strengthens. More particles are funneled toward the poles. The auroras become more intense, more widespread, more vivid. People at lower latitudes, places where auroras are rarely seen, suddenly witness them. The aurora intensifies because the shield is working harder, processing more energy, protecting you more actively. This is not metaphorical. During the Carrington event of 1861, the most powerful solar storm in recorded history, auroras were visible as far south as Cuba and Hawaii. Telegraph systems across the world failed, but life continued. The atmosphere remained intact. The magnetic shield held. Had Earth possessed no magnetic field, that same solar storm would have been catastrophic. The upper atmosphere would have been partially stripped away. The ozone layer would have been damaged. Ultraviolet radiation would have flooded the surface. Life would have been fundamentally threatened. The aurora, then, is not just beautiful. It is essential evidence of a protection system so vast and so constant that you rarely think about it. You walk beneath open sky, breathing freely, your DNA protected from cosmic radiation, and you do not pause to consider the invisible architecture that makes this possible. But when you see the northern lights, you are being invited to understand. You are being shown in visible form what is happening every moment of every day at the poles. The colors of the aurora also reveal something about the energy levels involved. Oxygen glows green at lower energies and red at higher energies. Nitrogen glows blue and purple when struck by high-energy particles. By observing the colors, scientists can measure the intensity of the solar wind, the strength of the magnetic disturbance, the altitude at which particles are colliding. The aurora becomes a natural instrument, measuring the health and activity of the magnetosphere in real time. This is why aurora forecasts exist. Scientists monitor solar activity, predict when particles will reach Earth, and estimate where and when auroras will be visible. These forecasts work because the system is predictable, orderly, and governed by physical laws. The sun releases energy, the magnetosphere responds, particles are funneled to the poles, auroras appear. It is a cycle as reliable as breathing, as fundamental as the rotation of the planet. When you lie beneath the aurora, watching it shift and flow, you are witnessing the most intimate conversation between your planet and the star that sustains it. You are watching energy transform from dangerous radiation into harmless light. You are seeing protection made visible, beauty made from defense. The aurora is Earth's way of showing you that you are safe, that you are protected, that the shield holds. And this shield has held for billions of years. It has protected every ancestor you have ever had. It has enabled consciousness itself to emerge on this world. It has allowed you to exist, to think, to wonder at the sky. The aurora is the visible proof of that ancient, tireless protection. It is a gift written in light, a message that says, you are safe beneath this shield. Every living thing on this planet carries within its cells a memory of protection, not written in words, but encoded in the very structure of life itself. Your body, the birds above, the whales in the ocean, the trees in forests, all of them evolved under the constant embrace of Earth's magnetic shield. Without it, none of this would exist. Consider for a moment what life truly requires. Not just air and water, though those matter. Life needs time. It needs generations upon generations to develop complexity, to build consciousness, to create the intricate dance of ecosystems. The magnetic field gave life that time. It purchased billions of years of safety. When the sun releases its most violent storms, solar winds carrying trillions of charged particles rush toward our planet at speeds that would seem impossible. Without the magnetosphere, these particles would strip away our atmosphere within millennia. They would bombard every living cell with radiation that tears through DNA, destroying the very instructions that make life possible. Yet here you are, breathing, thinking, existing, because ancient iron in Earth's core created an invisible fortress. Your cells know this protection intimately, though you have never consciously thought about it. Every mitochondrion in your body, every strand of your DNA, every neuron firing in your brain right now, all of these evolved in an environment shaped by magnetic safety. The radiation belts we explored earlier are not just abstract physics. They are the reason your body can function without constant cellular damage. Think about how animals navigate. A bird preparing for migration does not consult a map or follow landmarks alone. Deep within its brain, specialized cells respond to Earth's magnetic field. These cells contain magnetite crystals, tiny natural compasses that align with the planetary field. The bird feels the direction home not through sight, but through a sense so fundamental that it predates language, predates consciousness as we understand it. This is magnetic memory written into biology. Sea turtles travel thousands of kilometers across open ocean to return to the exact beach where they were born. They accomplish this feat using the magnetic field as their guide. Whales migrate between polar regions and equatorial waters, following magnetic contours in the ocean, as if reading invisible highways written in force lines. These creatures are not conscious of the magnetosphere. They simply sense it, trust it, and let it guide them across vast distances with precision that would astound human navigators. This is not instinct in the vague sense. It is something deeper. It is the accumulated wisdom of millions of years of evolution, encoded in neural tissue and sensory organs. Every migration, every successful journey, every generation that survived because they could sense direction, all of this reinforced the magnetic sense within these animals. They became living instruments tuned to Earth's magnetic song. Now imagine what would happen if this protection vanished. Not gradually, but suddenly. The radiation that currently flows harmlessly past us would begin to penetrate. Cellular machinery would begin to fail. DNA would accumulate damage faster than organisms could repair it. Evolution would reverse. Life would not simply become harder, it would become impossible. The complexity we see around us, from the simplest bacteria to human consciousness, would unravel. But the magnetosphere has not vanished. It has held steady for billions of years, fluctuating but never disappearing. This constancy allowed life to build upon itself, layer upon layer, complexity upon complexity. Your ancestors survived because they lived under this protection. Their ancestors survived for the same reason. This shield is not external to life. It is woven into the very fabric of what it means to be alive on Earth. Consider the development of your own body. You began as a single cell, then two, then millions, then billions. Each division, Each specialization, each new organ that formed, all of this happened in an environment where radiation was kept at bay. Your brain developed its billions of neurons, each making thousands of connections, creating the possibility of thought itself. This was only possible because the magnetosphere was there, filtering, protecting, allowing complexity to flourish. Dolphins use the magnetic field not just for navigation, but for communication and social bonding. Elephants sense subtle changes in magnetic fields, possibly helping them detect distant rain and water sources. Bees orient their dances, the very language through which they share information about flower locations, using the magnetic field as a reference point. Life has learned to read the magnetic field in countless ways, each species developing its own interpretation of this invisible language. The protection is so complete, so seamless, that we rarely notice it. You walk outside on a sunny day and feel warmth on your skin, but you do not feel the magnetosphere. You do not sense the particles being deflected, the radiation being blocked, the deadly energy being channeled safely away. This invisibility is part of its perfection. The shield works best when you do not notice it working. Yet every aurora tells the story. Every time those lights dance at the poles, they are showing you what protection looks like when it becomes visible. The colors are not beautiful by accident. They are the signature of your protection made manifest. Ancient peoples who witnessed auroras understood something true, even if they lacked the language of physics to express it. They recognized that they were witnessing something sacred, something that held their survival in its hands. As you listen to these words, your cells continue their ancient dance. Your body maintains itself through processes that evolved under magnetic protection. Your thoughts emerge from neural patterns shaped by billions of years of safe development. You are, in every measurable way, a child of this magnetic shield. Your existence is not separate from it. You are part of it. Where are you right now as you listen? Are you somewhere the magnetosphere is strongest? At the equator where field lines run nearly parallel to Earth's surface? Or are you closer to the poles, where the field lines dive steeply downward and auroras paint the sky? Wherever you are held within the same protection, the same invisible embrace that has allowed life to become conscious of itself. Imagine standing in complete darkness. Around you, invisible rivers flow. These are not water, they are information. Signals traveling through space, through your body, through every living thing on this planet. This is the language of Earth's magnetic field, and every creature speaks it. You have already learned that life evolved under protection, but protection alone is not enough. Life needed something more. Life needed guidance, a compass written into the very fabric of existence. Deep within your cells, there exists a protein called cryptochrome. It sounds like something from science fiction, but it is real. This protein can sense magnetic fields. Birds possess it, fish possess it, whales possess it. Even bacteria in the soil carry this ancient ability. When the sun rises, when the sun sets, when you move through space, these proteins whisper directions to your nervous system. Consider the Arctic tern. This small bird weighs less than your hand, yet it travels from Arctic to Antarctic and back again, covering nearly 44,000 miles every year. It has never been taught this route. No map exists in its mind. What guides it is the invisible field surrounding this planet. The magnetic field is its map. The magnetic field is its home. This is not instinct in the way you might imagine. This is something deeper. This is cellular memory. Organisms have spent billions of years learning to read Earth's magnetic language. That learning is now written into their DNA, into their proteins, into the architecture of their being. Your own body contains iron. In your blood, in your brain, in the very center of your cells. This iron responds to magnetic fields. You may not consciously feel this response, but it is there. Scientists have discovered that human brain tissue contains magnetite crystals. These crystals align with Earth's magnetic field. You are, quite literally, a biological compass. But the story goes deeper still. Migration is only one conversation between life and magnetism. There is also orientation, direction, purpose. When sea turtles hatch on a beach, they move toward the ocean. How do they know which way is ocean? The magnetic field tells them. When monarch butterflies begin their multi-generational journey to Mexico, they navigate using magnetic cues combined with the position of the sun. Each butterfly knows a route it has never traveled before. This knowledge is inherited, not through teaching but through generations of cellular learning. Your ancestors learned to read this field. That learning shaped your ancestors' brains, their nervous systems, their survival instincts. You carry this knowledge now, even if you cannot name it. There is something profound happening here. Life and magnetism are not separate, they are intertwined. They are partners in an ancient dance. The magnetic field protects life from radiation, yes, but it also communicates with life. It guides life. It shapes life's decisions. Think about this. When you feel drawn to a particular direction, when you sense something without seeing it, when you have intuition about which way to go, you may be experiencing an echo of this ancient ability. Your conscious mind cannot detect the magnetic field directly, but your body knows, your cells know, your DNA remembers. Scientists studying human navigation have discovered something curious. People blindfolded in unfamiliar rooms can often point toward magnetic north more accurately than chance would allow. This ability is weak in humans compared to other animals, but it exists. Somewhere in your brain, in proteins you have never heard of, you are sensing the direction of home, the direction of Earth's core, the direction of safety. Now consider what this means for your understanding of consciousness. Your mind did not develop in isolation. It developed in constant relationship with this magnetic field. Every thought you have ever had, every memory you have formed, every decision you have made, all of this occurred within a magnetic environment. Your consciousness is not separate from Earth's magnetism. It is shaped by it. When you sleep, your brain enters a state of profound vulnerability. It becomes more sensitive to external influences. The magnetic field may play a role in sleep quality, in dream formation, in memory consolidation. Some research suggests that sleeping with your head aligned to magnetic north produces deeper, more restorative sleep. This is not magic. This is biology remembering its origin. The birds know this. The whales know this. The salmon swimming upstream know this. They are reading the field like you might read a page in a book. They are following guidance that has been encoded into their bodies across millions of years. This is the magnetic memory. It is not a single memory. It is a distributed memory across all of life. Every organism that has ever lived under Earth's protection carries this memory in some form. Some carry it consciously, like the migrating birds. Some carry it unconsciously, like the trees that grow with roots pointing toward magnetic south in the southern hemisphere. You carry it too, in your blood, in your brain, in the quiet moments before sleep when your mind begins to drift. You may be experiencing a subtle alignment with the field that has protected your species for hundreds of millions of years. This is not something to fear. This is something to recognize. This is something to honor. The magnetic field is not just a shield. It is a language. It is a teacher. It is a connection between you and every other living thing on this planet. When you understand this, the world becomes less lonely. You realize you are never truly alone. You are always held within this vast, invisible conversation. Now, let me ask you something. Where are you listening from and what time is it there? I would like to know if you are feeling this connection as we explore it together. Yet this shield has not always been constant. Throughout Earth's history, the magnetic field has wavered, weakened, and even reversed its poles entirely. These moments were not catastrophic endings, but profound transitions that shaped how life itself learned to survive uncertainty. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast ocean during a storm. The waves grow stronger, the sky darkens, and for a moment, you wonder if the shore will hold. This is what happened to Earth millions of years ago. Not once, but many times. The magnetic field did not disappear, but it became thinner, more vulnerable. The protection you rely on now, the invisible shield that has kept you safe your entire life, became fragile. These events are called magnetic reversals. The North Pole becomes south and the south becomes north. It sounds dramatic, and in some ways it is. But life did not panic. Life adapted. Life learned. During these vulnerable windows, the magnetosphere weakens significantly. Solar winds press closer to Earth's surface. More radiation reaches the upper atmosphere. For weeks or months, the shield that had been absolute became permeable. Yet in the fossil record, we find something remarkable. Life continued, species transformed, new forms emerged. The vulnerability did not destroy existence, it redirected it. Consider the birds that navigate by reading magnetic lines. When the field reversed, these creatures did not vanish. Instead, their internal compasses recalibrated. Proteins in their eyes, the same cryptochrome molecules we discussed earlier, learned to read the new orientation. What was once a guide pointing north now pointed south, and the birds adjusted their migration routes accordingly. Generation by generation, they rewired their consciousness to match the changing world. This teaches us something profound about resilience. The shield is powerful, yes, but its power lies not in being unbreakable, it lies in being adaptable. When it weakened, life did not collapse. Life flexed, life evolved. Life became more sophisticated in how it read the world. The last major reversal occurred approximately 760,000 years ago. Geological records show us the exact moment this happened. Layers of rock preserve the memory of that transition. Iron particles within those ancient stones point in directions opposite to where they point today. The Earth's core, churning with liquid iron and convection, simply shifted its rhythm. The magnetic poles danced to a new pattern. And what happened to life during this time? Species continued to thrive. Humans were already walking the Earth. Our ancestors did not record this event in writing. They had not yet invented language as we know it. But their bodies, their genes, their consciousness adapted to the changing magnetic environment. You carry within your DNA the legacy of those ancestors who survived a magnetic reversal. Their cells learned to function under changing magnetic conditions. That resilience is now part of you. What fascinates scientists is that these reversals do not happen instantly. They unfold over centuries or millennia. The magnetic field does not simply flip like a light switch. Instead, it wobbles, it destabilizes. Multiple poles can exist temporarily. Compasses would become unreliable. Birds would become confused. Yet this gradual transition allowed life to adjust incrementally, rather than face sudden catastrophe. During these vulnerable periods, the magnetosphere becomes thinner in some regions, while remaining strong in others. Think of it as a shield with temporary gaps. Solar radiation penetrates deeper, but not everywhere. The upper atmosphere becomes more active. Aurora borealis and aurora australis become more frequent, more intense, more visible. The colors dance across the sky with greater urgency. Ancient peoples witnessing these events would have seen the heavens themselves transformed. They would have interpreted these lights as omens, as divine messages. Perhaps they sensed, without understanding the physics, that something fundamental was shifting in the protection above them. The most vulnerable species during these transitions were those most dependent on precise magnetic navigation. Ocean creatures that migrate thousands of miles using magnetic sense faced genuine challenges, yet the fossil record reveals they survived. Some species changed their routes, some altered their timing, some developed backup navigation systems using the sun, the stars, ocean currents, and visual landmarks. Life became more resourceful. What this teaches us about your own existence is remarkable. You are not merely protected by a static shield. You are the product of billions of years of life, learning to survive within a dynamic, changing magnetic environment. Your body contains mechanisms for detecting magnetic fields. Your brain processes magnetic information. Your cells have adapted to function optimally within Earth-specific magnetic conditions. When the field weakened in the past, your ancestors' bodies learned to maintain consciousness, to continue thinking, to keep moving forward. The vulnerability windows also revealed something about the relationship between life and planetary systems. Life is not passive. It does not simply wait for protection and hope for survival. Life actively reads its environment. Life responds. Life changes. The magnetic field guides life, but life also learns to live with changes to that guidance. There is a conversation happening between the planet and all living things, a dialogue that has continued for over 3 billion years. Right now, in this moment, As you listen to these words, you are experiencing one of the stable periods. The magnetic field is strong. The shield is solid, but within your cells, within your DNA, you carry the memory of times when this was not true. Your ancestors survived. Their adaptability became your inheritance. You are not fragile. You are the result of life learning to survive uncertainty, to adapt to change, to continue existing even when the invisible protection wavered. The next layer of this protection story is even more expansive than what we have explored so far. Beyond the magnetosphere itself lies another shield, less visible but equally essential. This is where our understanding of Earth's true protection becomes complete. Right now, as you breathe, invisible layers of protection surround you. Not one shield, but many. Nested within the magnetic field itself exists an architecture so vast and intricate that it took humanity decades to even perceive it existed. These are the Van Allen belts, two concentric rings of charged particles trapped within Earth's magnetic embrace, spinning in a cosmic dance that has persisted for billions of years. They form what scientists call the magnetosphere's extended architecture, a fortress within a fortress. Imagine the magnetic field as a bubble. Now imagine that within this bubble, there are chambers. These chambers collect and hold particles from the sun. The solar wind constantly streams toward Earth, carrying protons and electrons stripped from the sun's surface. But the magnetic field doesn't simply deflect them, it captures them. It holds them in place. This is the Van Allen belts. The inner belt sits relatively close to Earth, beginning around 1,000 kilometers above your head. Here, particles move with tremendous speed, spiraling along magnetic field lines like runners on an invisible track. The outer belt extends much farther, reaching tens of thousands of kilometers into space. Together, these belts form a protective cocoon that absorbs and contains the most dangerous radiation before it reaches the atmosphere below. Without these belts, satellites would not survive. The radiation there is so intense that any unshielded electronic device would fail within hours. Yet this same intensity, this same lethal environment, is precisely what keeps that radiation away from you. The belts trap it. They hold it in a region of space where it can cause no harm to life below. Think of it this way. A shield does not work by being invisible. It works by intercepting. The Van Allen belts are the magnetic field's interceptors. They catch what would otherwise reach you and hold it harmless far above the clouds. Scientists discovered these belts in the late 1950s when the first satellites began to probe space. The instruments returned readings so high that researchers initially thought the equipment was malfunctioning. The radiation levels were far beyond what anyone had predicted, but the readings were accurate. The belts were real, and they were far more powerful than anyone had imagined. This discovery changed everything. It revealed that Earth possessed not just a shield, but a sophisticated system of containment. The magnetic field generates the bubble. The bubble channels particles into specific pathways. The particles become trapped in these pathways, forming the belts. The belts then radiate their energy harmlessly into space, or hold it in regions where it cannot penetrate to the surface. Every satellite that orbits Earth must account for the Van Allen belts. Engineers design electronics to withstand the radiation, or they route satellites through the gaps between the belts. Astronauts traveling to the moon must pass through these regions quickly, shielded by their spacecraft. The belts are not obstacles to be overcome. They are realities to be respected. But here is what makes this truly extraordinary. These belts are not static. They pulse, they expand and contract. During solar storms, when the sun releases enormous bursts of energy, the belts intensify. They swell outward, capturing more particles, becoming more active. Yet even in these moments of heightened activity, they continue their function. They continue to protect. Consider what this means for life. Every organism on Earth exists within a graduated system of protection. The magnetic field creates the outer boundary. The Van Allen belts form the inner fortification. The atmosphere provides the final layer. Together, these three systems create redundancy. If one weakens, the others compensate. If one fails, the others persist. This is not accident, this is not coincidence, this is the architecture of survival itself. The particles trapped in the Van Allen belts come primarily from the solar wind. The sun constantly releases streams of charged particles into space. These particles travel outward in all directions. When they encounter Earth's magnetic field, most are deflected. But some are captured, some spiral inward along the field lines drawn by the magnetic geometry. These become the belts. In a sense, the belts represent a conversation between Earth and the sun. The sun sends particles. The magnetic field receives them. The belts hold them. Energy flows between these two celestial bodies in a dance that has continued for 4.5 billion years. And within this dance, life emerged. Within this protected space, consciousness developed. You exist because of this architecture. Not metaphorically, literally. The Van Allen belts are as essential to your existence as your lungs or your heart. Now let me ask you something as you rest here. Where are you listening from? What time is it there? I would like to know what part of Earth's protected surface you occupy right now. The belts extend so far into space that they represent a significant portion of Earth's sphere of influence. Yet we rarely think about them. They are invisible to us. We cannot see them. We cannot feel them. We can only detect them with instruments designed specifically for that purpose. Yet they are there, always there, pulsing with energy, spiraling with particles, maintaining their vigil against the cosmic radiation that would otherwise render Earth a lifeless rock. This is the invisible architecture. This is the extended shield. And you float within it, protected by forces so vast and ancient that they predate human consciousness itself. Your brain exists because of magnetism, not metaphorically, literally. Every thought you are having right now, every memory, every dream that visits you in silence, none of this would be possible without the invisible shield that surrounds this planet. The magnetic field does not simply protect your body from radiation. It shaped the very evolution of the nervous system itself. Let us explore this connection slowly, gently, as if we are walking through a garden where every flower reveals something about consciousness itself. Billions of years ago, when Earth's magnetic field first stabilized into a coherent shield, something extraordinary began to happen in the oceans. Life, which had existed in simple forms for hundreds of millions of years, suddenly had permission to become complex. Radiation damage slowed. Cells could invest energy into something other than constant repair. Mutations decreased in frequency. Stability allowed for specialization. The first nervous systems emerged in creatures barely visible to the naked eye. Jellyfish developed simple nerve nets. Fish evolved brains. Amphibians crawled onto land protected by that same magnetic umbrella. Mammals developed larger brains. Primates climbed trees under a sky that was safe enough for extended exposure. Your ancestors walked upright beneath a protective field that made consciousness possible. This is not coincidence. This is causation. The development of complex neural tissue requires an environment of relative stability. Radiation damage to DNA occurs constantly, but within a protected biosphere, repair mechanisms can keep pace. Without the magnetic shield, without the Van Allen belts intercepting solar particles, without the atmosphere filtering ultraviolet light, life would remain locked in simple forms. Evolution would be a race against destruction, not a journey toward complexity. Your brain contains roughly 86 billion neurons. Each neuron is a delicate structure, vulnerable to damage from high-energy particles. The magnetic field has been protecting these neurons for millions of years, allowing them to develop, to network, to create the possibility of thought itself. When you think, you are thinking inside a magnetic bubble. Your consciousness floats in protection. Consider the structure of your own mind. Memory requires stable neural connections. Learning requires the ability to form new synapses without constant damage. Emotion requires networks of interconnected regions working in harmony. Imagination requires the freedom to explore thought without the interruption of cellular breakdown. All of this depends on a protective environment that the magnetic field provides. Ancient civilizations understood this intuitively, though not scientifically. They felt the presence of something sacred in the invisible forces around them. They built temples aligned with magnetic north. They created myths about protective deities. They sensed, without instruments, that an invisible power held them safe. In a way, they were correct. The magnetic field is the oldest protector. It is the guardian that made their existence possible. Now, let us move deeper into what this means for your consciousness right now. Your brain operates through electrical signals. Neurons communicate by transmitting ions across membranes, creating tiny electrical currents. These currents generate their own magnetic fields. Your thoughts literally create magnetism, and your thoughts exist within a planetary magnetic field. There is a resonance here, a harmony between the scale of your neural activity and the scale of Earth's magnetic protection. Some researchers have explored whether human consciousness might be subtly influenced by the Earth's magnetic field itself. The evidence remains delicate, poetic rather than conclusive. But consider this: if life evolved for billions of years within this field, if your nervous system developed under its constant presence, then your brain is fundamentally attuned to it. You are not separate from the magnetic field. You are a product of it. The magnetic field shaped not only your body, but your perception. Your sense of direction, your circadian rhythms, your intuitive understanding of space, all of these are influenced by magnetism. Birds navigate using it. Sea turtles find their way across oceans guided by it. Whales migrate following its contours. And humans, though we have largely forgotten this ancient knowledge, still carry the sensitivity to it in our cells. This is why humans have always felt drawn to certain places, why some locations feel peaceful and others feel unsettling, why ancient peoples built their sacred sites aligned with magnetic currents. They were responding to something real, something their bodies could sense even if their minds could not name it. Your consciousness exists at the intersection of biology and physics. Your thoughts emerge from chemical reactions and electrical impulses within a brain that evolved in a magnetic field. That field is not separate from you. It is woven into your existence at the cellular level, at the genetic level, at the level of how your nervous system developed and how it continues to function. When you feel a sense of peace in nature, when you experience awe under a star-filled sky, when you feel connected to something larger than yourself, part of what you are sensing is real. You are sensing the presence of the protective field that made your consciousness possible. You are feeling, in a way, the presence of deep time, the presence of billions of years of protection, the presence of evolution's patient work. This is the profound truth. You are not merely protected by the magnetic field, you are made of it. Your consciousness is shaped by it. Your thoughts flow through neural networks that evolved under its constant presence. Every moment of awareness you experience is happening inside a magnetic bubble that has held you safe since before you were born. Now, as we move forward, we must ask a question that grows more urgent with each passing year. What happens when that shield begins to weaken? Your awareness right now exists within a system that has remained stable for millions of years. Yet stability, as you know, is never absolute. The magnetic field that has cradled your consciousness, your ancestors, and all life on Earth is not frozen in time. It breathes, it fluctuates. And in our modern age, we have begun to notice something that ancient peoples could never measure. The shield is changing. The strength of Earth's magnetic field has declined by approximately 5% over the last 2 centuries. This is not a catastrophic collapse, but rather a gentle weakening, like a heartbeat becoming slightly slower but still steady. Scientists monitor this shift with precision instruments, tracking how the invisible lines of force that surround our planet are gradually losing intensity. Yet here is what matters most. The field is still there. It still protects. It still holds. What you're experiencing in this modern era is something entirely new to human civilization. For the first time, we can see the shield with instruments. We can measure it. We can predict its changes. This knowledge brings both wonder and, for some, concern. But concern without context is merely anxiety floating in darkness. Let us bring light to what is actually happening. The Sun, our closest star, has cycles of its own. Every 11 years, solar activity peaks and valleys in a rhythm that astronomers have documented for centuries. During solar maximum, the Sun releases more energy, more radiation, more particles into space. These waves of solar wind press against Earth's magnetic field, like an ocean tide against a shore. The field responds by compressing slightly on the side facing the Sun and stretching into a long tail on the night side. This dance between Sun and Earth has continued for billions of years. In recent decades, solar activity has not increased in the way some feared. In fact, the current solar cycle shows patterns similar to historical records. What has changed is our awareness. We now have satellites watching the sun continuously. We now have instruments measuring the solar wind in real time. We now understand that what seemed like a distant, untouchable phenomenon is actually a dynamic interaction we can observe and comprehend. The weakening of the magnetic field, this gentle decline you might imagine, follows patterns that science has already mapped. Magnetic reversals, as you learned before, have happened many times. Between reversals, the field naturally fluctuates in strength. These fluctuations are not errors or failures. They are part of the system's natural rhythm. The field does not weaken uniformly. Some regions strengthen while others diminish. This asymmetry is actually part of how the system maintains its protective function. There is a region of particular interest to scientists, the South Atlantic anomaly. Here the magnetic field is notably weaker than elsewhere on Earth. Satellites passing through this zone experience increased radiation exposure. This sounds alarming, but consider the context. The anomaly exists within a broader protective system. The atmosphere above it still shields the surface. The Van Allen belts still intercept the most dangerous particles. The anomaly is a thin place in the shield, but the shield remains. What modern science reveals is something both humbling and reassuring. The systems protecting life on Earth are redundant and resilient. If the magnetic field weakens further, the atmosphere becomes more important. If solar activity increases, the outer magnetosphere expands to compensate. If one layer of protection shows vulnerability, others strengthen their role. This is not a backup plan designed by conscious engineers. This is the result of billions of years of planetary evolution, creating systems that adapt and persist. Your civilization now faces a unique responsibility. You can see the shield, you can measure it, you can predict its behavior. This knowledge allows you to prepare, to understand, and to act with wisdom rather than fear. Societies throughout history have adapted to environmental changes far more dramatic than a 5% decline in magnetic field strength. Your ancestors survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and magnetic reversals. You inherit their resilience. The future stability of Earth's magnetic field depends on processes deep within the planet. The liquid iron core continues to move and generate the field through mechanisms that science understands in principle, but cannot fully predict in detail. Yet this uncertainty is not a weakness. It is part of the mystery that makes Earth alive. The field will continue to exist. It will continue to protect. Whether it weakens further or strengthens again, the fundamental purpose remains unchanged, to hold life within its embrace. Consider what this means for you personally. You are living through a time when humanity can observe and understand its planetary shield. You can feel the ground beneath you, knowing that beneath that ground flows liquid iron, generating an invisible force that extends thousands of miles into space. You can look at the sky and know that above you, nested layers of protection work together to allow your consciousness to exist. This is not abstract knowledge. This is the literal ground of your being. The modern threat, if we must call it that, is not the magnetic field's weakening. The real challenge is maintaining the wisdom to understand these systems without fear, to act with responsibility without panic, and to remember that you are part of a living planet that has survived far greater challenges than this. Your thoughts right now depend on this protection. Your breath depends on the atmosphere it helps preserve. Your heartbeat echoes the rhythm of planetary forces far older than human time. As you continue this journey, hold this understanding. The shield that protects you is real, measurable, and resilient. It is changing, yes, but change is not destruction. You are not fragile. You are held within systems of extraordinary complexity and strength. The modern age has given you the gift of seeing what your ancestors could only feel. Use this vision wisely. Trust in the protection that surrounds you, even as you work to understand and care for the systems that provide it. There is a moment when understanding shifts from knowledge to reverence. This is that moment. You have learned how Earth's magnetic field protects you. You have discovered the Van Allen belt standing guard. You have felt the connection between your consciousness and this planetary shield. Now comes the deeper question. What does it mean to live within this protection? What changes when you truly grasp that every breath, every thought, every moment of your existence unfolds inside an invisible embrace? This is the geometry of gratitude. Consider the mathematics of your position right now. You are not floating randomly in a hostile universe. You are nested within layers of intentional protection, each one serving a purpose that predates human language. The magnetic field generated by iron moving in Earth's liquid outer core creates a protective bubble, extending thousands of miles into space. Within that bubble sits the Van Allen belts, those rings of captured particles acting as a secondary shield. Surrounding both is an atmosphere that filters remaining radiation while maintaining the precise chemistry needed for carbon-based life. 3 shields, 3 levels of redundancy, 3 reasons why you exist. Ancient peoples did not understand the physics. They could not measure magnetic fields or calculate the trajectory of solar particles. Yet they felt something. They sensed a presence, a protection, a divine order surrounding their world. They built temples aligned to magnetic north. They created myths about guardians protecting humanity from celestial fire. They understood, in the language of poetry and ritual, what science now confirms. We live within something greater than ourselves. The geometry of this protection reveals itself in patterns. The magnetic field is not uniform. It has shape, structure, intention written into its very existence. The field lines flow from south to north, creating an architecture that channels solar wind around the planet, rather than allowing it to strike directly. This is not accident. This is the consequence of physics operating at planetary scale, a symphony of forces that has maintained habitability for billions of years. Think about what this means for your daily life. When you walk outside, when you look at the sky, when you feel the sun on your skin, you are experiencing only the fraction of solar energy that passes through multiple filters. The radiation that reaches you has been vetted, reduced, made safe by systems operating at scales you cannot see. Your skin does not burn from cosmic rays because of this protection. Your cells do not mutate from solar radiation because of this protection. Your consciousness remains stable and coherent because of this protection. This is not metaphor. This is physics expressing itself as care. The gratitude geometry emerges when you recognize that your individual existence is held within collective systems of protection. You do not protect yourself. The planet protects you. The magnetic field protects you. The atmosphere protects you. The Van Allen belts protect you. You are never alone in your vulnerability. You are always held within layers of planetary care that operated long before you were born and will continue long after you are gone. This creates a particular kind of humility. You are not the center of this system. You are the beneficiary of it. Your consciousness emerges because conditions were maintained. Your thoughts flow because protection was provided. Your sense of self, your identity, your inner world, all of it exists within the electromagnetic embrace of a living planet. Ancient astronomers who tracked the stars understood something of this. They recognized that they were part of a larger order. They felt small, yes, but also held. The night sky was not threatening to them. It was the visible expression of the invisible protection they lived within. When they saw the stars, they were seeing the boundary of Earth's protective field, the place where terrestrial safety met cosmic vastness. You can feel this same recognition now. Right now, at this moment, you are suspended within protection. The magnetic field surrounds you like an invisible ocean. You are swimming in its currents without effort, without awareness, without needing to understand its mechanics. The protection simply is. It simply continues. It simply maintains the conditions that allow you to breathe, to think, to exist. This is the gratitude geometry. Understanding that your existence is a gift held within systems you did not create and cannot control. This understanding does not diminish you. It expands you. It connects you to something vastly larger than your individual life. It reveals that you are part of a planetary consciousness, a system of mutual protection and interdependence that extends from the liquid iron core of Earth to the magnetosphere extending into space. When you recognize this, something shifts in how you perceive the world. The sky is no longer empty space above you. It is the visible boundary of your protection. The ground beneath you is not inert matter. It is the source of the magnetic field that holds you safe. The sun, so distant and powerful, is not a threat. It is the energy source that makes life possible, and it is being carefully regulated by the very systems that sustain you. The geometry of gratitude asks you to live with awareness of this protection, not fear, not anxiety about weakening fields or solar cycles, but awareness, recognition, a gentle acknowledgement that you exist within something precious, something rare, something worth honoring. This is what the ancients knew. This is what modern science confirms, and this is what you can feel right now, in this moment, if you pause and allow yourself to sense the invisible shield surrounding you, holding you, protecting every breath you take. Every breath you take exists within an invisible sanctuary. This entire journey we have traveled together, from the iron core beneath your feet to the storms of the sun above, arrives now at a single, profound truth. You are never alone. You are never unprotected. You are held always by forces so vast and ancient that they predate your species by billions of years. Let this sink in for a moment. Right now, as you listen, molten iron spirals at Earth's center, generating the magnetic field that wraps around you like an eternal embrace. This is not poetry alone. This is physics. This is reality. The two have always been the same. Think back to what we discovered together. Deep within our planet, iron flows in currents so powerful that they create a magnetic bubble extending thousands of miles into space. This bubble, your magnetosphere, catches the solar wind before it reaches you. The sun sends particles and radiation constantly, a stream of energy that would sterilize any unprotected world. Yet here you stand, breathing, thinking, feeling. The shield holds. And it is not just one shield. We explored how 3 layers protect you simultaneously. The magnetic field itself forms the outermost guardian. Then the Van Allen belts trap and redirect dangerous particles into safe zones. Finally, your atmosphere, that thin, precious layer of air, filters what remains, transforming lethal radiation into the gentle blue light you see at dawn. 3 shields, 3 gifts, 3 reasons why consciousness could emerge on this world. Ancient peoples did not have instruments to measure these protections, yet they sensed them. They looked at the sky and felt something sacred. They understood without science that they existed within something greater. They called it divine. They were not wrong. The divine, perhaps, is simply what we do not yet understand. And now you understand more. The sacred has not diminished. It has only deepened. Consider what this means for your daily life. Every moment, you are protected by forces you cannot see or touch. When you step outside, you walk within a magnetic field. When you sleep, that field continues its work. When you dream, it guards your body. When you wake, it is still there. This protection never rests. It never asks for gratitude. It simply exists, doing its work, sustaining the conditions that allow you to be. This is the gift of perception. Once you know the shield exists, you cannot unknow it. The sky becomes something different. It is no longer empty space above you. It is a boundary of safety. The ground beneath you is no longer simple earth. It is the source of your protection, the place where molten iron spirals endlessly, generating the force that keeps you alive. What shifts when you truly understand this? Fear transforms. The universe, which once seemed hostile and vast and indifferent, reveals itself as fundamentally protective. Yes, the sun is powerful. Yes, radiation exists. Yes, the cosmos contains forces that could destroy. But between you and all of that stands an invisible shield, maintained by your planet itself, renewed constantly by the motion of iron in the deep places where no human has ever gone. This is what we have explored across our time together. We began with curiosity about magnetism and ended with gratitude for existence itself. We started with science and discovered philosophy. We asked questions about the invisible and found that the invisible is everywhere, sustaining everything, holding everything together. The ancient astronomers who watched the stars were not separate from the magnetism we studied. They were protected by it. The scientists who first measured Earth's magnetic field were protected by it. You, right now, are protected by it. There is no separation between observer and observed. You exist within the shield. You are part of the system that protects you. This is the final meditation. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the ground beneath you. Sense the air around you. Know that above you, invisible but real, the magnetic field curves around Earth like a lover's arms. Know that within you, your own biology responds to this field at the cellular level, has evolved within it for billions of years, is fundamentally shaped by it. You are not floating randomly in a hostile universe. You are held. You are protected. You are part of a system so elegant, so intricate, so perfectly balanced that it allows consciousness itself to exist. This is not accident. This is not luck. This is the result of billions of years of planetary evolution, of physical laws working in harmony, of conditions aligning in ways that make your existence possible. And this protection continues. The shield will hold for billions of years more. Long after your lifetime, long after your civilization, the iron will spiral in the core, the magnetic field will wrap around Earth, the Van Allen belts will trap particles, the atmosphere will filter light, the conditions for life will persist. You are part of something eternal, not because of religion or belief, but because of physics, because of the way the universe actually works, because of the invisible forces that have shaped your world and your body and your mind. This is where our journey ends, yet it is also where it begins anew each morning when you wake. Each breath is a gift of the shield. Each thought is protected by magnetism. Each moment of consciousness exists within the sanctuary that Earth provides. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the invisible. If this experience has brought you peace, if it has shifted how you perceive the world, I would be grateful for your like and subscription to Relaxing Science. Share this journey with others. Let them know they are protected. Let them understand that they exist within something sacred and scientific at once. Tell us in the comments, how has your perception of Earth's protection changed? Where are you listening from, and what time is it there? Your stories matter. Your presence in this community matters. The shield continues. You are safe. Rest now, knowing this truth.